Sorry. So with opportunities, understand I have a team account. So some may look a little bit different than others, but I want you to be able to utilize it to the fullest. So the first thing I always say is you want to get into your settings and see what you have for your default settings. So here we know opportunities will let you turn in your deals to get paid, which is the most important thing. Other things are keeping on track. Oh, there's Rachel peeking in. Hi, Rachel. We've seen her. Hi. Hello, Facebook world. Other things are keeping track of your transactions so you don't lose track of what you're doing, and also updating your client on what you're doing to help them. Today, we're going to actually look at the listing side of things. So I always make weekly contacts with my client just to make sure they know what's going on, what's happening, good, bad, or nothing. But with opportunities, you can actually set up checklists. So when you complete items, your client will automatically be emailed to let you know, hey, this is what we started doing for that. Now to look at what that kind of looks like, I got to remember where it is, under command settings, under opportunity settings, there's a button here called client update. So if you click this client update button, this says that what's the default time that you'd like your client to actually get updated. Now, the updates that go out are only if you've completed something. So in other words, when we go through and we start looking at our checklists, the updates, you actually have to check off, yes, I did this, before a client will get an email. So in other words, you're not going to get a blank email every day. And you have the ability to change this default time per actual opportunity. So this is just kind of a default time. It says, who's it going to be sent from? Do you want to send it to the client and the co-client? And also sign to, and this is mostly for teams, all right? Now, eventually we're going to be able to actually modify the way that this email looks, but right now they just have one design, and this is kind of what it looks like. So John Smith, we're checking things off the list. Here's a summary of tasks we've completed for blank, blank, blank. And the checklist items that you put here that we're going to actually create today is the ones that are done will be checked off. So in other words, put the home in the MLS, uploaded photos, think along those lines. That's what your checklists are going to be that you're going to be updating people for, okay? And then your information on the bottom tells them again to download the app. But it's a nice little quick way to update your client on everything that's going on. So the first thing, or the second thing, we're on the second thing. The second thing we want to look at is how the opportunities pipeline is supposed to work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get into opportunities. And it's like I like to tell everybody, if you forget what all of these are, you just click on the red KW and it opens it up for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get into opportunities. And we're just going to look at the dashboard for a minute here so you understand how it's actually supposed to come out. Looks like my video is going a little slow, but that's all right. So what you have here is your different phases for an opportunity for listings, buyers, and leases. And coming soon is going to be also referrals. So you'll be able to track your referrals that you've sent out as well, which will be really cool. These different phases cannot be modified. These are set by Keller Williams. So for listings, which is what I want us to look at today, you've got cultivate, meaning it's not a listing yet. Appointment, meaning you're scheduling or going on an appointment. Active in the MLS, ready to go, being marketed. Under contract is obviously it's pending with an accepted deal. And then my favorite one, which is closed. Now, based on where your opportunities are in each of these different phases, that predicts your potential and probable income. So based on the listings that I have in the appointment phase, the active phase, and the cultivate phase, I have a potential income of $22,800. I have a probable income of $6,753. So it's a nice way to kind of predict your future income. And that's the idea behind this. The other thing to keep in mind with opportunities, I get this call all the time, is after you close on a deal, next month the opportunity is gone and you're like, where are all my closed opportunities? Well, this is your monthly pipeline. So after a deal has closed in February, it no longer appears here because that's not your March income that's supposed to show up, if that makes sense. You can always find all your opportunities under all opportunities here, okay? We good so far? Any questions? I'm using that as a sip of a coffee here. All right. So to create an opportunity, obviously we have to create an opportunity to start. So I want you to, if you haven't already, I want you to actually create an opportunity. And if you've got yourself in command, use yourself as a client, okay? And the opportunity listing name that we're going to use, just list it as dummy opportunity or something like that. So you know it's just something that you're experimenting on. Oops. With the opportunities, you can also have custom tags. I haven't used any of these yet for opportunities. I am using it for my contacts. But think if you were doing foreclosures. So you may want to have a tag that says foreclosures, so you know how much business is foreclosures or new construction. That's the idea behind these custom tags. Estimated closing date. You just put a date in there. Remember, this is helping you predict your future income. Estimated listing price, whether or not you've gone on the appointment yet, we're just creating an opportunity. So we're going to say 200,000. And you have to have your commission rate in there in order to have the system figure out how much money you're going to be making. Now, the opportunity phase and stage, you can put your opportunity anywhere that you want in your pipeline. So if you're just starting off, you can have it in cultivate, appointment, or active, okay? And the opportunity stage, and we'll get into that, you can put it there. So if you want for right now, just put it in the beginning stages and go ahead and hit create. Now it should have put it in the cultivate stage. So it's actually will show up. And let me get into my one that I've already created for us here. So you should be looking at your opportunity that looks just like this. Now from here, what we want to do is if it's a listing, the office wants the opportunity. They want the name or the address in the opportunity names. So remember, it kind of defaulted to dummy opportunity. So here's how it works for me. If it's a buyer, when you create an opportunity, before you've got a deal accepted, it's always Al Lafort buyer or whatever it defaults it to. Then when I have a deal accepted and I'm ready to turn it into the market center, I have to change the name of that opportunity to the address. And to change anything there, I would just click on the pencil. And here is where you can actually change the opportunity name. Now, the market center doesn't care what's at the end of it, but they do want the address. So I could go 123 Main Street, Shelby. And then I can just put a little dash there and leave that at the end. Township. There we go. They need to have this in the beginning to do an opportunity. Okay, so that's the first thing that you want. The next thing that you want to do is you want to put in the actual property address once you have it here. This is going to pre-populate a lot of your forms when it comes time for your offers and things like that. So I would say you go ahead, put the address in there. It's going to pull it up from Google. So I'm just going to use the office address here. I didn't put that part in. And that's the other part that the office is going to need to see as well. Okay. So now we talked about client updates and different times of day that you wanted the client to be notified. It'll automatically go to the default unless you hit seller profile from this part. Oh, and they moved it. Oh, I see it. It's up in the corner. Look in the corner. Client updates. That's where they moved it to. And this is saying you've got to actually turn this on in order for your client to get updates. So it's defaulted off just in case you didn't want that client to get updates. If I turn it on, this was the default time that I had for this client, but I'm going to say, you know what, this person works midnight. So I'm going to do 3 o'clock p.m. That's when we're going to update them. It's going to be sent from me. If you're on a team, there's other options, Rainmaker assignees, things like that. Send also to, you're going to send it to your seller. This is me as the seller in this case. And yourself, you want to send it to yourself. Now, if there was an additional contact that you needed to send this to, just for this particular thing, you could do that as well. Maybe I've got a case right now where I've got a condo listed. Mom is in the nursing home. The son is handling everything. So the mom is still on title. She signs everything, but the son is coordinating. So even though he's technically not a seller, I don't have him listed as a seller, but I can still add him as a contact and actually update him on here and not affect the fact that he's not a seller, if that makes sense. Then at that point, I would just go ahead and I would save the changes. And now our opportunity is created. So now let's talk about customizing the opportunity pipeline. Let's see, question. Do you automatically put a seller's address in when you set up a client? Well, there's 2 spots for that, Dawn. So when you create a contact, you're going to have the address there. Now, command in the details, once it's listed, sometimes it will pull it in from the KWLS system. It'll actually pull the address in there. And there's also another button that may pop up that'll say enter it from the KWLS. I always just go ahead and put the address in there. That way it's there in case something gets missed. Okay. So now let's go back to our opportunities pipeline. Now, I told you that these different phases here cannot be changed. What can be changed is the stages that are within those. And I'm sure nobody that's on this call has changed it. So yours is going to look a little different than mine. I've done some modifications to it. And you don't have to do it the way that I do things. You have to build this out the way that you do business. So we understand that cultivate basically means we're trying to get them to list the property. An opportunity should be created for any contact that you have in command if that person is looking to buy or sell within the next year. Now, some people use different times. That's just Keller Williams guidelines. If I have somebody that's looking to buy or sell in a year, I'm going to create an opportunity and they're going to be in the cultivate stage. So when I click on the cultivate stage, I think it defaults you guys to 3 different stages here. Am I correct on that? Anybody that's on the Zoom, tell me what you've got for your stages in the cultivate right now. Nobody's got anything. They're all watching sports. That's what it is. Well, anyways, then I'm just gonna, oh wait, watch, nurture, and hot. That's what they have. I was watching a Facebook webinar or a Zoom or something, and the person that was on there actually changed their stages to not sure when selling, selling within 12 months. Let me scroll down a little bit. 6 to 12 month, 3 to 6 month sell, 1 to 3 month sell. Okay. That was what they did on that. And just to show you, you don't have to click and follow up on the buying. I did something very similar in the cultivate stage. 12-month purchase, 6 to 12-month purchase, 3 to 6-month purchase. So you understand how you can modify that to what you need. So I'm going to show you how to do that, but I just kind of want to go through everything is here. So on these different stages, you see that there's percentages that are on these stages, 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%. If I go to different ones, you're going to see that that's increasing. So what this is saying is that based on any opportunity that I currently have in this particular stage, there's a 5% chance I'm going to get a paycheck on that. So this is where you have to know your numbers initially. Eventually, if you use this properly, Command will learn everything for you, and it's going to know that, Holly, you sell 2 out of 3 listings in this particular stage, so you've got a 66% in this particular stage. But for now, you have to actually know your numbers. Let's see, Dawn asks, when you are updating the client, does it update it on the app or just the email? Right now, Dawn, when you do the updates and you're checking off the list, that's just an email. That is not in the client updates for the timeline that's on the app. So the idea is once you get a opportunity created, at that point, you are going to be able to drag this into the different stages. That's how you should be using it. A lot of people, they're basically, oops, sorry, let me go back. A lot of people, they're just getting paid and putting it where they need to. But what you're supposed to be doing is actually dragging them to the different stages to where they're at, so you can keep track of everything that's going on. This is going to make more sense when we're looking in the appointment and the active stage. So I've got some checklists and some things set up, and I think the best way to do this is I'm going to actually drag this up into the active stage, and we are going to assume that this property is now active. When you drag it up into the individual phases here, it'll start it in the beginning. Now, here's the one that I just dragged over, 123 Main Street. And if you notice, I've got a checklist of items here that I need to complete. These are the checklists of the items that will go to the client update if you want it to, okay? And I want you to notice something. Right now, I've got 8 items that would need to be completed. I drag it to the next stage. There's 6 items in this stage. So you can kind of see how it does the different stages with your different checklist items. So dragging it back to the original stage here, I go ahead and I can click on this, and these are pre-done checklists of things that I have to do for this particular stage of the listing. Now, these checklists, I'm going to actually put these in a chat for you. I have a couple of sample ones that are available, and let me put these in here now from my computer. Just something to get you started with what should be in each spot. And let me find it here. All right. Sample listing checklist. There's a sample listing checklist, and I will do the sample buyer checklist as well for you. And remember, this is how you do business, so you have to modify it based on how you do business. Sample buyer. Okay, for those on Zoom, I have put those checklists up there for you so you kind of see what's going on. So real simple with these checklists. If I've done this, I check it off, and you can see here, it's already set to go as a client update. When we're creating these checklists, you'll see where we'll be able to do that. But let's say, excuse me for a second. Let's say I'm not ready to schedule the photographer. I didn't do this yet. I can actually set a due date to when I need to do this. So I'm going to set this for tomorrow. It's going to remind me 11:24, whatever time you want, that I've got to schedule the photographer. So either you can check it off that it's done, or you can schedule. Now, if you have a team, you have the ability to assign that particular task to anybody on your team as well. So that would be the first thing we can do is we can either schedule it, we can do that, or we can say it's done. At one point, it tells me 1 out of 8 is done. You can hide the completed items if you want. And then you just close it. So now tomorrow, Al, the client, or later today, depending on the time of that you set up the email, is going to get that email saying that checklist was done. So now how do we modify all of this stuff and the checklists? So from here, what you want to do in any of these, and you have to be in each individual one, so we'll stay in the active one. For any of these phases, click on the one that you want to change the stages, and you click Edit Stages. Now here, for active, you probably have 3 or 4 that show up for active. So in order to change these, you can either add a stage, you can move them to the order that you want, you can edit the current stages that are there, or you can delete the stages, okay? For the checklist items, that shows up here. And on all your guys' checklists right now, it should show 0 of 0 on there. So the first thing you really want to do is think about when a property goes active, in this particular case, what are the different stages that you as an agent need? So I'm just going to kind of tell you what mine are, and then you can take it from there. So my first stage is called launching. And for me, this means I have the MLS, all the documents, everything is signed. I have a signed listing agreement. It's not in the MLS yet. So I've got the signed listing agreement. It's time to put it in the MLS. Marketing and showing for me is it's in the MLS. It's rocking and rolling. It's going. Offer negotiations. This is when I'm getting offers in. We're going back and forth with our offers. And on a lot of these different stages, you're going to see what's called legacy. So legacy is there put there by Keller Williams for any old loops that you might have had in dot loop. You did have the ability to bring those over into this legacy phase. So it's kind of like a phase that's not used. I haven't deleted it because I'm scared to. I don't know what it'll do. So I just kind of leave it there. So in my active, I've got the launching, the marketing and showing, and offer negotiations. Alicia says, where did you place the sample checklist? Alicia, can you scroll up on the chat? I did put it in the chat, so I don't know if it went through to everybody. See if there's something there for me.
No, I don't see it. Sorry.
All right, I might have, maybe it's not letting us send it there. So I will have to email it to you guys after for sure. So you've got them, okay? And just to kind of show you what they have there, let me bring them up and then we'll get into our checklist items. So here's a sample. Oh, put it on the wrong screen here. All right. Here is the sample listing checklist that I found. And I think Sean Cassidy has another one that I've seen him post as well. Remember, this isn't in stone. This is how you do business. So listing checklist, cultivate, nurture, hot, that's under the cultivate stage. These are kind of all the defaults that were there. Appointment, an active phase, they named it staging, photography, MLS draft, but you can kind of get an idea of what you should have in there. And before they did the client update portion of it, I didn't really want to do too many checklists because I felt like it was extra work for me. I know that I have to put it in the MLS. Why do I have to check a little box off to say I did that? But now that we've got client updates, it's like, oh, this is another touch to my seller to let them know this is what we're doing. This is what I've done today, in addition to the weekly call that I make to them, okay? Make sure we're good here. So cultivate, nurture, we were at the active phase, schedule photographer, order yard sign, order warranty if applicable, virtual staging. You can kind of see the different tasks that are here. You may have the same tasks as that. You may have different tasks. It depends on how you want to do your business, okay? And that's the beauty of the things that are working good in command is you have the ability to modify this based on how you do the business. So now we're into our checklists and how to change your checklist after you've figured out what your stages are. How you change your checklists are just by clicking on the little check mark there. And this is where you add your checklist, and you do it by adding an item. So I'm going to add an item and I'm going to call this test checklist. And now I've got an option. Is this going to be a client update? Is this something that's going to be emailed to the client once I complete it? If it's not, you leave that blank. So think about things that your client doesn't understand. You don't want to overwhelm them with things that you've completed, but you don't want to, the little tasks that you might have to do that don't affect them. Like a good example would be upload documents into command. Your client doesn't know what the hell command is. So that's really not going to affect them, if that makes sense, okay? So if it was upload command, I probably wouldn't have that. So then I go ahead and I save that checklist. You have the ability to reorder these if you want. You have the ability to edit or delete those if you want. And like I said, if you want your client to be updated, you can also change that here as well, okay? And that's how you really create your checklists. So just to go through some of the ones that I have, this is for active launching, meaning it's not in the MLS yet. Schedule the photographer, enter the data in the MLS, enter the pictures, update showing time, upload the seller's disclosures, upload all documents to command. See, I do not have that as a client update. Order the home warranty if it's applicable, and schedule weekly update calls with the seller. I wish it showed you more on there. It doesn't, okay? So you go through on each of them and you determine what you want for your checklist items. Now, the other thing that you're looking at too is remember the percentages that we had on there, your probability of getting paid, okay? In order to change those percentages initially, what you want to do is this pencil here is where you can edit your stages, and this is where you put your probabilities. So think about how often I list a home and it's in the launching phase, meaning that I've already got the listing, it's getting ready to be put in the MLS. And right now there's probably a 70% chance that that's going to sell from that phase. Same thing with marketing and showing. I mean, once it's in the MLS, there's probably a 70% chance. I know that everybody says that everything is selling really, really quick, but averaged out, that's probably where I'm at with that. When I get an offer in, it goes up to probably 75%. This is based on your own individual numbers. So this is where you have to start knowing your numbers. It doesn't have to be exact, but just put what you think there. And then as you're going through your transactions, you're going to be able to modify those. And an example would be, let me go back to our different things. When I'm in the offer negotiations, we're at 75%. So let's look at under contract to give you another example of those. I have accepted an accepted offer, 75% chance that it's going to close. Inspections, meaning their home inspection, we're at that phase right there. About a 75% chance for me that it's going to actually go through the inspection. Same thing with the appraisal. Our appraisals are still a little iffy, could be 75%. Now I've added an actual stage in here. So I've got accepted offer, inspections, appraisal, and then I have another stage that's called negotiation for appraisal inspection issues. And if you notice, it drops it back down to 60% for me, because if you've got an issue, you've got to try to work that out. And sometimes they don't work out all the time. The last one on there I have is financing. So in other words, I've cleared the inspection, I've cleared the appraisal. We're waiting for the financing to actually go through, okay? And then the last one, which is our favorite, is we are clear to close. All right. So does all of that make sense for you on those? Thumbs up, yell, scream, something. I'm only giving you like 3 seconds and a sip of coffee, and then I'm moving on.
Hey, Al,
Yes.
how did you add those couple, like, you know what I mean? Because I had like just up to appraisal. How did you add like negotiations for appraisal and all that?
Sure. So all you have to do, if I'm under contract, all I have to do is edit stages.
Okay.
And then you should have your 3 that show up here, right, Holly?
Yeah.
So if you needed to add a stage, like I added the negotiations, you click on add stage,
Okay.
name it, put your probability there. It will let you put your checklist. If you wanted to do your checklist there, you could actually start that there. But normally what I do is I just add the stage, put the probability that I think, click save, and then drag it to wherever I need that to be. And then I'll get back in and actually add my checklist items.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Now I got to look and see where you made me put that, Holly, so I can delete it. All right. All right. Let's take a couple of minutes, and I just started to be perfectly honest with you guys. I just started updating all the checklist items that I have. So I want to be a little interactive at this point, and I know that we've got a checklist, the sample one that I'm going to get to everybody, but I want to take you through everything that I've done so far as a listing goes, just to get your mind thinking on what you should have there. So we're going to go back to our cultivate stage. I haven't really done any checklists with any of the cultivate at this point. Okay, so this is something that I've really got to think about. How do I want to market to these people? So not sure when selling. These people should also be put on a smart plan. I would probably have them on the a monthly neighborhood nurture or a bi-monthly neighborhood nurture, things like that. Same thing with the 12-month sell. I would have them on something like that. 6 to 12-month sell. I may want something a little bit more aggressive as far as the smart plan goes. So I would have a checklist that would say, start them into XYZ smart plan. Okay. Now on the appointment, this is where I kind of started and didn't start. So I've got scheduled, meaning I've actually have an appointment with them, rescheduling for an additional appointment, meaning I went out there, but for whatever reason, one, didn't get the listing, or 2, we've got to reschedule, and kept, meaning I've got the appointment, I just don't have the listing at this point. I should probably have, I would think now looking at it, I should probably have another stage in there that says, didn't get the listing or something like that. I don't know. And maybe I can do a follow-up on that. Okay. Active. This is where I kind of started the actual checklists as far as what goes. Oh, and I forgot to show you guys one other thing with these checklists. So the checklists that you put here, like for example, this one that we just did, this is stuff that I have to do for just about every property. So when you're creating your default checklists, make sure it's something that you do for just about every property. So every property, I know I use a professional photographer. So you've got to schedule the photographer. I know it's got to go in the MLS. I know I got to enter the pictures. I know I've got to do that. But what if you had a particular property that you needed to do something extra? So let me take us back. I have our 123 Main Street in Shelby with my checklist with my 8 items that I'm supposed to do. But for this particular one, this is an awesome property and all of these are good, but I actually need to add an item just for this particular opportunity. So let's say order drone. I want that as a client update, assign it to whoever, set a due date if I wanted to set a due date, and save. So now this particular one has now 9 items that need to be done. All right. Those are the ones that have to be done. However, if I go back to any of the other ones, it's only going to be the 8 items. It doesn't change the default checklist. Does that make sense? Let me see if it'll work on this one here. Actually, that belongs in that checklist now. So that one only has the 9, if that makes sense. Okay. So some of the different things that I've done, it's probably easier to look at it through the edit the stages, is checklist items. We already did launching, marketing and showing, send MLS printout to the seller, verify all MLS information with the seller, verify my Circle Pix tours, update the MLS with the Circle Pix tours if they're needed, start online marketing. Think about this, for me, this is starting my Facebook ad campaigns, things like that. Print and deliver flyers to the house, to the seller. A lot of people are kind of getting away from doing that. I still use the hand flyers. I think they're a great marketing tool, and they're also a great tool as our market starts to shift a little bit for your seller for price reductions. And I've talked about this before. If you use one of the old flyer boxes that's on the post on the sign itself, I always tell the seller, hey, some people still like these old-fashioned flyers. I'm going to put 10 in there because, you know, it rains and they get dirty and things like that. So I kind of need your help. So I'm going to put like 10, 15 in there. Just go out and check every few days and let me know if I need to come out and replace them. I'm going to be happy to do that, but I need your help. I'm not going to drive by your house every day. So they call you the first time and they're like, we're out. And then they call you the second time. We got 2 left. And then they call you the third time. They're like, yep, we're running low again. And at that point, I'm able to say, wow, we've been through almost 30, 40, 50 flyers. We haven't had any showings on the house. You know what? Let's schedule an appointment. Let's sit down and look at the market again and see where we're at with everything. It's kind of an opening into your price reduction. Okay. Now let's go back to my under contract. So my under contract, I have the accepted offer, the appraisal, negotiations, and things like that, and the different stages that I have. Here's the different checklist items that I've started with. And this is kind of where I ended, and I've got to go forward from here and backward into the cultivation stage. So my accepted offer, easier to look at that. If no contingencies, mark the property pending in the MLS. Send a copy of the fully executed documents to the seller. So this is the bottom line copy. File all previous offers and agent information for backups. I also have that as a client update as well, letting them know that, hey, I'm keeping all this other information handy just in case something falls through so we can get a hold of them. Update social media postings. So for me, that is our Circle Pix will still continue to post your listings on when they're pending. They still do that. So I get in the beginning of the week, I'll get in and I'll actually change the description that Circle Pix is going to post to say, hey, this property is now under contract. We have plenty more, or we're looking for more houses. We've got plenty of buyers, things like that. At that point, I'm either going to order or update the title work that I've already previously ordered. I use Kelly for my transactions, so I'm going to turn in the file to Kelly at that point for processing and schedule weekly updates with Kelly, the lender, and the buyer's agent. Okay. So you kind of get an idea on how this is supposed to flow as far as these different stages and these different phases and things like that. The hard things is it's up to you to be able to, in these, to remember to move them into the different stages that you have. That's the biggest thing that you want, okay? And then once it's closed, remember, you're going to have closed. I think the defaults for you guys is closed and legacy. And I've done closed and commission check issued. So in other words, I do closed, which I'm going to have my checklist items of different things that I'm going to do here. And then when my check is issued, that's kind of like updating my financial records, updating my leaderboard, things like that. And legacy, like I said, legacy is just old deals that would have been come in from dot loop. So I got through this pretty quick. Is there any other questions that anybody has at this point? I am going to take a screenshot of who's here so that I can send you guys out those checklists.
No, I think you explained everything pretty well there, Al. Thanks.
Carl, have you been using it at all to this level?
I have not, so I will start to though.
Yeah, and I would say, hang on, I can't type and think at the same time. So tell us a story while I'm typing, Carl. Opportunity attendees.
No, I just, like everybody else, just here to learn and do all these sorts of things. It's a trial by fire sort of scenarios when obviously all of us, or most of us here on this call are new. So anything that's new, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And if it works the first time, which it probably won't, great. But once again, it probably won't. So we'll be talking to you or someone else, or just try to fiddle our way through it. But this did help just to kind of get a basic idea of how things should flow, and will help moving forward.
Right, exactly. And I think the key to it is, remember, you can get ready. The idea is to sell real estate, is to not bog yourself down with setting this up. I mean, if you've got any current deals going, or even if you don't, and you're prospecting, you're doing things, man, use an old-fashioned pen and paper and start writing down what you're doing that could possibly be a checklist item. Does that make sense? And that way you've built out how you're doing things. You can add and subtract and delete as you're going, but at least you can build it out from there. Last thing that I kind of want to show you guys with opportunities is what we really should be doing is, let me grab our test one and let us put it under contract. And I've got an accepted offer here. So once it's accepted, you do have your offers and commissions tab that's all in one line here. So now what I want to tell you is what we've been doing is the very basics of this. We get an accepted offer. So at that point, we add the new offer, and we're going to call this offer one. And then we've got to fill out the offer date, the close date. I'm just going to do this really quick. The parties, Jane Doe, all the basic financial information, associate's name, Al, me, the terms. I'm putting a lot down apparently on this. Earnest money. And then you've got here the agent analysis. So the pros are lots of money down. The cons are none, and any summary that you want to have. And you click save and you've got your offer there. But with your listings and even with your buyers, I'm going to get into the habit of any offers that are coming in, I'm going to add them on here. So I'm going to add this as the second offer. So let's say I've got 2 offers on here on my listing. Just trying to buzz through as quick as I can here for you guys. And this one, they're putting $100,000 down. They're financing 200,000. Putting down 5,000 EMD. Good lender. Save there. And it's keeping track of your offers that are here. So now what I can do is I can select all these offers and actually compare them on a side by side. So I've got multiple offers on the property. Here is the nuts and bolts of them. And I'd like to email that over to my client. So that's a really cool feature with the offers that you have. The other thing that I like about the offers is that, remember, the system is starting to learn you guys as to what you need. Remember, think about those percentages. So on the listing side, how many offers do I need to get that thing sold? Makes more sense on the buyer side. If I've got a buyer, especially in today's market, how many offers do I actually have to write per deal to actually get a deal through? So I'd encourage you to, once you get familiar, start putting all of your offers that are in there. You know, whether you're writing it with your buyer or you're writing it on, or you're getting them in on your listing, because that's, like I said, the nice summary that's there, that's really helpful for your sellers. You have to go through everything with them, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to have a summary and say, hey, here's what I found on both of these offers. So, and make sure we don't have anything else here. Nothing on Facebook. We're looking good. Any last questions on anything? I did really good. I expected like an hour and a half. Maybe you guys are just really smart and you didn't have questions, or I'm boring you or something like that. So either way, I got done early. Alicia, what do you think?
The checklist and the email to the client, is
Yes.
it separate from the one that you can do through the app?
Yes, it is.
Checklist?
Actually, I'm hoping that eventually it would merge it. So the one that's in your app, that is your client updates under your consumer area. And that's under your guide builder. So that is under the app. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to mirror it a little bit with my stages and my phases. But on the app, I don't want to make it as intense. So like if I had, I may want to have on my seller guide, I may want to have active in the MLS is one of the guides that's here. It currently has marketing your home. So I may modify that to have some of the items that were in that particular checklist. Once they're complete, then I know that I can check that off for them, or they can check it off for themselves. So they don't talk, which I wish they did. Remember, if you come across these type of ideas, you can go to ideas.kw.com and submit these ideas for them. They can only improve the system based on the feedback that we give them. And anybody else? In 5, 4, 3, 2, opportunity. All right, that's it, guys. If you got any questions, go ahead and send me an email, technology@kwlakeside.com. Otherwise, Dawn, Carl, Alicia, Holly, I will email you over the checklist that I have. I tried to find the ones. I want to say that Sean put them on our Facebook page, a couple of different ones as well. So I'll try to find those as well, but I'll at least get these emailed out to you. So have a great day, everybody.
All right, thanks, Al.
Thanks, Al.
All right, see ya.
Bye.